All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. So today we are doing a special episode of Worldhoppers where we talk about spooky things and spooky books and other spooky things in addition to books. So if this is your first time watching Worldhoppers, welcome. This is a collaborative booktube channel where we bring all kinds of booktubers on to talk about various SFF things and sometimes other things, but generally book related. Wow, that was not an intro that I've ever done before. I'm totally I'm a little out of practice if you can't tell. Okay, I think that was good though. Let's go. So we haven't really planned out like specific recommendations. We're just gonna chat about all things horror that we like or don't like. So I guess I'll go first real quick and just kind of talk about what kinds of horror I like to read. I started getting into horror maybe a couple years ago. No, like it's been at least 3 years because this past year I haven't read a lot of horror. And I like things that are like spooky, but not like in your face horror. Like things that are like hinted at, like I like spooky thrillers. I found a few spooky thrillers that I really like. And I also found that I really like body horror, which is weird. I don't know why I like that, but body horror, if you don't know, is when they like describe like really gross things. So I found I really like body horror, and I like survival stories, like where people have to like really do whatever it takes to survive their situation, sort of thing, especially when there's like a small group of friends and they have to like, I don't know, compete with each other or whatever to try and survive. I really like seeing the friend dynamic kind of like crumble. So those are the sorts of things that I like to read in horror. What about you guys?
I'll go next.
Yeah. Go.
There's really not any that I dislike except for erotica, but my favorite would be haunted houses. I love haunted houses or haunted locations, whether it be an old hospital, something like that. I just love it. Kind of you don't necessarily see anything, but you hear things or you feel things, just that perpetual dread. I love that. That just gets my heart pounding and racing. And that's really what sucked me into the horror genre and has kept me there. If I go a week without reading a horror novel, I start suffering withdrawals. I'm so yes, I'm so addicted to that just rush of adrenaline. I've recently found I love anything to do with a serial killer. I mean, it's like, is it okay to say?
Go for it.
But I think it's because it could be real. It's, and I think that's part of the allure of the horror genre is it's real life. Usually it happens in our world in situations that we could see possibly occurring. Now there is like a whole paranormal side of things, which I also really enjoy. I just about any kind of scary book you can give me, I love. Even the campy stuff. But slashers, that's probably my second favorite.
I don't like the campy stuff.
I like campy.
Oh man,
I love it.
Just this everybody's dying, and all of a sudden somebody cracks this completely inappropriate, just well-timed joke, and I
love it.
I'm dying.
Yeah.
Like the one I just read called The Unwelcome. It was about a body snatcher, and it's unlike any body snatcher story I've ever read. But he just had that well-timed, just campy jokes placed in there. I was smiling the whole time. Like, this is a scary book, and I'm sitting here laughing. I'm like, is there something wrong with me? So nothing's off limits. I'll try anything unless it's just full of nastiness, and I'm like,
yeah, the campy jokes just totally like break the tension for me. I can't take it seriously.
Oh, see, I love a horror comedy. Like, I love it.
Gives your heart rate a break.
Great. I just think it's hilarious too. Like, I like the mix of like creepy and like Yeah, I like the campy stuff too. I get it. So I think I kind of discovered horror a few years ago. I used to think I didn't like it. I wasn't really allowed to do horror growing up, and then I thought it was too scary for me, and then I've discovered I really love it. So it's been fun to explore different things. I am a big fan of gothic horror and literary horror. Like those are probably two of my favorite things. I love it when a book uses horror tropes as a way to talk about real world issues like,
Absolutely.
sexism or colonization or race or like whatever. Like I love that. I love all that. Like with like, yeah. But I also like the fun kind of campy side of it too. So I feel like those are kind of some of my favorites. And I also really enjoy genre blends when you get horror mixed with like sci-fi or fantasy. I think that's really fun too.
Yeah, I love genre blends, and I haven't read enough of them. I definitely want to read more space horror because I think space is really scary.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't read any good space horrors, but I want to because I think space is like. I recently watched a sci-fi space movie that I can't remember the name of right now, but I just remember thinking like because they were having like issues, and it's like it's so scary because you're stuck up there and you only have what you have.
Yeah. And it's like the tagline of Alien, in space, no one can scream.
The scariest movie I've ever seen in my life was Event Horizon.
Oh.
And that's a space scary movie. Like, ugh.
I'll have to watch that.
Man.
It's on HBO.
Okay. Event Horizon, noted. What about you, Tori? What kind of horror do you like to read?
So I actually have not really been reading a lot of horror maybe until the last couple of years or so. I found that I started gravitating toward like horror and spooky books naturally like during this time of year, but I've actually really been into like horror movies growing up. So I don't know why I've never really been into horror novels, but I've found from the little that I have read that I really like zombie horror novels.
Oh, me too.
So, oh my God. So for a long time, I guess they could fall into different categories, but I've always have thought that like zombies were a part of the post-apocalyptic genre.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah, so
overlap, right?
Yeah, but they overlap. So I guess like horror fans also consider zombies to be like a subgenre of horror too. So I will read anything to do with zombies. I love zombie films, zombie TV shows. So that's pretty much like where I've been.
I'm the same way, and I think it's because it brings in that survival aspect that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to pick your brain for some zombie.
Well,
I haven't read a lot.
Okay, scariest zombie show. It's a Korean one. I just forgot the name of it. But the zombies are Usain Bolts. They don't. They're not slow. Like dragon.
Which are the scariest guys.
Scary.
Wow.
Scary. So good though.
Wow.
So good.
No, thank you.
Well,
I love a good zombie novel, a good zombie TV show. But what I've also been reading recently is like horror novels that deal with family dynamics. So I just recently read The Changeling by Victor LaValle, and then I also read My Soul to Keep.
That one. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So oh my God, they were both. I really enjoyed My Soul to Keep, and I did enjoy The Changeling, but I found that I'm starting to gravitate a little towards those like horror novels that deal a lot with like family dynamics and like the breakdown of family units and stuff. So I really find that fascinating.
Who's the author of My Soul to Keep?
Tananarive.
Okay, I'm just gonna look that up. I can't spell that. Sorry.
Just fair warning if you're a parent, like maybe read content warnings because there's like a scene that's like, I don't know. I've never seen anyone go where this book goes.
Yeah, maybe I'll wait a little bit on that.
Yeah, it gets pretty dark.
Yeah. Just FYI.
Good call.
Yeah.
With the zombies, somebody reminded me of this recently, and I just thought I would throw this out there. A book you might not expect to have a zombie in it is Dune Messiah, and then the Dune books going forward.
Interesting.
There's a character who gets kind of turned into basically a zombie, sort of.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, that's kind of what hooked me about Game of Thrones, like the first episode of Game of Thrones. I was like, those are like zombies, but it's fantasy. It's zombies. So I love it when, I mean, this is true for any sort of like trope or subgenre. I love when there's like a new twist on it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my favorite is anything with kids.
I knew you were going to say creepy kids. I'm not a huge fan of creepy kids.
I love anything with imaginary friends. I can't go 2 seconds without mentioning it.
So creepy.
I really do. I love kids. I love creepy kids. I love like the kid when kids are like messed up. I love like anything with if you read The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry is the most twisted, like wild book with a kid, and it is. I loved it so much. Anyways, I love that.
Yeah.
What's
His favorite
See, like
is-
I probably stay away from that because I have kids and it freaks me out. And I'm like, no, I can't do this.
You would think, like,
That is so
with me
funny.
just having a kid, I'd be like, whoa.
I mean,
need a kid?
look, but I know a couple other parents who read a lot of horror who are the same, where like that's how they cope with stuff, which is funny. I'm like, no, I'm good. That's cool.
Yeah. I actually, so my book club is actually reading Imaginary Friend for October, and a few people were talking about how they love like scary, creepy kids, and I started talking about how like whenever I used to watch TV shows where they like kids would have imaginary friends, I'd always be like, are they seeing ghosts? Like I get so freaked out. Like I think it's so scary.
Is it real?
I don't want to read about it.
Is it not? I love that. I love when kids are like the main protagonists. I love any horror that centers around like a children's story.
I really hope my kid he's only 11 weeks old, so this is a far away future, but I really hope he doesn't have imaginary friends because it's gonna freak me out.
I had one.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people did. It's totally normal. I never had one. But like, I'm just not gonna, I mean, if it's like another kid, no, because there's kid ghosts too.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as it's not an old creepy man, but no, even if it's a kid, you just still don't know.
I have a friend who I forget if it's like a friend's kid or like their niece or somebody, but they have a child in their life. And they were telling me this story about how they saw a picture of like their great grandma or something, like who had been like passed away for like a long time. And they were like looking through an old photo album and the kid goes, oh my gosh, I know her. And they're like, how do you know her?
Nope.
And the kid's like, I've talked to her before. She's come and visit me.
Oh no.
No.
This is why I don't like
Like a
I
real
literally get chills.
No.
So I love that stuff. I love it. I love it. I eat it up because I love like ghost stories. I think that's why I love that stuff. And then I can't do body horror. I realized this. I tried The Troop by Nick Cutter because I feel like that's like the ultimate like body horror. Everyone loves The Troop, and I got 90 pages into it. It's like it's not for me. I can't do it because I don't like bodies.
I don't know why I like it. Like,
It's so gross. So I couldn't do it. But anything else I can do. So that's me.
I really like both horror movies and horror novels, but I noticed that I tend to like different genres in
I was
both.
gonna say, I feel the same way.
Yeah, so like in the movies, I tend to be into the very campy, low budget, also creature features and anything with a lot of gore in it. But when I read books, I do tend to like the ones that are more psychological horror, gothic horror. I just really like reading a story where the main character is gaslit by every person around them and you don't know what is real and what isn't real, or if there's even a supernatural element. Is this, are there ghosts or are they just losing their mind because they're trapped in a creepy mansion with a bunch of assholes that are picking on them all the time. So, and I also do like body horror as well. But I tend to only like body horror when it's in comics or movies. I don't usually for books for whatever reason. It's just
Interesting.
That's interesting. I haven't really found like what I don't like yet in horror books, but as far as like horror films are, concerned, I find that I'm really sensitive to anything to do with like possession or
Yeah, same.
religion is really heavily used as one of the
Oh
underlying
man,
themes.
they're so good. It's so
Yeah, it's
scary.
so good, but it just like always, I don't know, I always
I
come away
know.
like, oh, that didn't sit right in my spirit watching that.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, the possession stuff particularly freaks me out. Although I don't know. So I've been trying to like desensitize myself to it a little bit as like part of my like deconstructing from being a former evangelical. like I have certain things in different genres, including horror, that I'm like, let me try exposing myself to this now that I believe different things than I used to and get
So
over
brave
it.
of you, pushing your limits. I like it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I really like watching haunted house movies, but I have yet to find a haunted. Not that I've read a ton. I've read like 2 or 3 haunted house horror books, and they just don't feel the same. So, I haven't found a horror book that's a haunted house story that I like. But I love watching haunted house movies.
Mm.
Nice.
So as far as like horror that I don't like, I don't know if this is really what it's called, but there's some horror that's like really weird. Like there was one, I think it was just a short story that I read, but like this person kept finding hair in their mouth or something and was like pulling it. It was like gross. So I don't know. There's like weird horror, or what I call weird horror, that I think is like scary because it's so weird.
Yeah.
I don't like weird horror. It just doesn't work for me. There was this other one short story, or maybe it was a book that I read that had to do with like this dead pig's body, and I just didn't do anything for me.
Shock value. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I think it's like a shock thing.
no.
What I'm curious, because I haven't been like truly scared by a book yet, like keep me up at night scared. What is the scariest book you guys have read? If there's been a book that's like
Yeah.
that
There you go.
of a dead man.
Okay,
what
This
kind of
one-
horror is that?
This one is a haunted house story,
Ooh.
and it's one of those where there's a guy who he buys this house, he's fixing it up. So if you love HGTV, you're gonna love that aspect. And he's like at his wits' end. He's putting everything in his house to rebuild his business. And it's an old farmhouse with some land. And gosh, like the first night he's there, he looks through the house and he's upstairs sleeping and he hears footsteps coming up the stairs. And he knows there are 12 steps. And he's counting the footsteps and he's like peeking out into the hallway because he knows when it gets to 12, he's going to see whatever it is. And it stops on the 11th stair. And just, and he's like scared to use loud equipment because once he sees what it is, he's like scared to turn his back. So he would like turn it on for a minute to do work and then he would like check. I mean, like I got chill bumps.
I'm just listening.
Thinking about it. And it's one of those that has a twist on the haunted house story that was different and unexpected, but it was so cool.
Okay.
So
Totally have to add that to my list.
yeah, that one's my favorites as far as like scared me. Like I was looking around my house at any dark shadows, I would have a headache from just staring so hard, looking.
Oh no.
Yeah, that I was really and like my ice maker dropped below. I was like, no more reading at night. So I read scary books in the afternoons and still on sunshine.
I've never had a horror book actually scare me or give me nightmares, but I've also I've never been scared by horror movies, but I haven't had like nightmares from them. So I'm very lucky in that sense. That's probably why I'm able to like watch scary things. I think it's because I have aphantasia. I can't picture things in my mind at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
I'm
explains a lot.
reading words on a page and I don't see anything. So then like there's nothing to like daydream or whatever. Like I don't have.
What about like serial killer crime?
See, I don't like true crime stuff.
I don't like that either because it freaks me out. It's
I
too
do.
real.
Real. Like
Too real.
that's why I like more the ghost stuff because it's well, I believe in ghosts, but
Oh man.
but it's not like as like real. Like I hear about true crime on the news every day. I don't want to like read. You know, I'm like, ugh, it's too close to home.
I haven't
I
read
have
that.
such an overactive imagination that any scary book can just kind of get me started and my brain is going to kick in and do the rest.
Okay. Oh man.
Yeah, that's I think why I avoided horror for so long is because it used to freak me out that way. And I like not a lot of books do that anymore, but I think it's because I spend so much, the way I get around it is I spend my time like analyzing it and like the you know, like what is the author trying to do and how are they doing it and what does it mean and what are the themes and like what are like, so I think the way I make myself not scared by things is by doing that. And I find that it also works for movies pretty well. If I'm like, I wonder like how they did the special effects on this scene, then it's not scary anymore.
Oh
it's great.
man.
I like it. Very logical strategy.
That's funny. I haven't read well, at least I can't remember in recent memory a book that has just like truly terrified me. But I love like psychological books that kind of mess with me like mentally. And one that just I always love to talk about is Night Film by Marisha Pessel. It is just.
I need to read it.
Have you read it?
No, everyone talks about how good it is. I need to read it.
It is so good. It's one of my favorite books ever. But the whole like premise of it is this extremely famous like director's daughter ends up dead in this warehouse, and so this journalist spends the whole book trying to figure out like what exactly happened to her, and in order to do that he like goes deep into this director's cult following, and just the films that he's made are so dark and they have to have like red band screenings on them, and so just the book is so immersive and you feel like one of the fans of this director as you're reading it, and it messes with you so much. Like there are some scenes you just look up and you're like, where am I? What just happened? I feel like I just watched this movie. It was that book is an experience, but it's so good.
A lot of people love it. I didn't like it at all, but like I feel like I have the unpopular opinion on that, so don't take that for like.
It's so good.
But I've heard other people say that they didn't like it either. Enough people have said that they didn't like it that I'm actually not planning to try it. I think there's other things I'd rather pick up, but a lot of people really love that one. So
I feel like horror is one of those genres that's really divisive, where you either have to love the book or you're just gonna hate it.
Yeah.
Well, it has so many subgenres.
Yeah.
And I've talked to so many authors. It's just so important to make sure it's marketed correctly, because if like they're like, hey, I want you to read this collection of short stories. I'm like, awesome. And 9 of them are exactly what I want, you know, a blend of horror and sci-fi or a blend of horror and fantasy. And then the last one is just like porn and words. And I'm like, I hate this. Like this doesn't, in my opinion, belong here. And it's like, if you don't mark, like you need to let people be aware of that, because that can destroy. If the person is expecting one thing and they get something else and they don't like that something else, you're going to get a low rating and maybe lose a potential fan. But I think it's very important to market it correctly because of all the different niches and subgenres that you can run into. I've not even discovered remotely how many of them there are yet, but I want to.
Yeah, I mean, expectations are important for any book that you pick up, but I do think it's even like more important for horror.
Yeah,
right. Because what scares someone, what freaks you out, is so personal and so different.
and what you like and don't like. Like I just read a book that is very divisive and I loved it, but I totally can see why a lot of
Which
people
one?
did. I have it. It's this one, Catherine House.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wait, I've heard really mixed reviews. You liked it?
I loved it. It's like one of my favorite things I've read this year, but I totally understand. But I have friends who hated it, like one starred it. So
Okay.
Oh no.
I love that one too.
Okay. Because I just finished this and was like,
Oh my god, I hated that one.
I love it. I love no.
okay, I'm gonna try Catherine
You should
House.
try it. So
Okay.
so this is
Okay,
like
give me
a literary gothic suspense horror.
Oh,
And-
that's. Let me write that down.
And it has a kind of an open-ended ending, sort of like Cabin at the End of the World.
Okay.
So
I
and
loved it.
I loved it. It's great.
Okay.
But it's weird. But the thing about it that's really interesting, if you after you read it, read interviews to find out what it's a retelling of. I won't say what it is because it's a spoiler. It spoils it, but it's a retelling, and if you find out what it is, a lot of things make a lot more sense.
Okay.
But you shouldn't know going in because
Okay.
I think it would like ruin your experience. But it's really good.
Yeah, because I was gonna bring this one up as like a divisive book. Has everyone here read it yet?
I have
No.
not, but it's on my list.
I loved it.
I read it.
Did you
I
hate
was
it?
so disappointed. I hated it. I was like really
I
looking forward to it.
1 star.
My good friends like loved it, and then I got to the end and I like boxed her like yelling. I was like, "What is
I
this?"
finished it and just started laughing. I was like, "Whoa, wild ride!"
I love the ending. No, yeah, I was a fan too.
It definitely was not what I was expecting. I was expecting something very different than what it is. That's where the marketing comes in. But sometimes, like for that book, I feel like you can't really market it.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's like it spoils it, or I mean, not really. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could market it better, but I did not get what I was expecting from that book.
Just
now
for
I'm really
genuine
curious.
scary things, really quick, I do have to pitch Junji Ito. He's a comic artist, and his stuff is really disturbing, very graphic.
He's the one that
But
wrote
not
the
like-
spiral one, right?
Huh?
Uzumaki.
Yes.
Spirals?
Yes. Yep.
I haven't read it, but I heard.
Oh, it's so good, and it's like gory in a way that a lot of horror isn't typically gory.
Okay.
Okay.
I love
the
his
spiral.
illustrations.
Yeah,
His
I need to
art
watch
style is beautiful.
Yeah.
it's so good. So I just had to I have to throw that in there.
I recently read Gio by him. And that was a hot mess, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I was just not
What?
prepared.
You sold me. What are you saying?
I was not prepared. So yeah, I definitely have to check out more. I want to read Uzumaki next.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the 3rd volume to get here, and then I have his latest Censor that I'm gonna get to as well.
So speaking of those are comics, right? Or are they
Manga.
Manga. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about format. What is your favorite format to read horror? Like, let's not talk about movies, I guess. So I will go ahead and throw out there that audio is my favorite way to read horror because I think that like I said, I have aphantasia and I can't like imagine things. And I think it really can bring the story to life. I think the book that has gotten the closest to like creeping me out or scaring me, it's actually a YA book, and it's called And the Trees Crept In by Don Kurtagich. And the audiobook is fantastic. They have like sound effects and stuff. Like you can hear the creaking noises or like the trees and the breeze and things like that. And it's a little bit of a psychological horror too. A little bit haunted house, but more psychological. And it's just, so this girl and her sister all of a sudden have to live with their crazy aunt. And one day the older sister starts to notice that the trees surrounding this really old dilapidated house that they're living in keep getting closer and closer. And she was like, what's going on here? And I think a lot of people would read that and be like, that wasn't scary. And I don't think it was, like I said, it didn't scare me. Nothing has book wise, but it definitely gave me the creeps. And I think a lot of that had to do with the audiobook. So I think Don Kurtagich gets good audiobooks because the book that came out after that also had a really good audiobook with good sound effects and stuff. And I'm totally blanking on the name of that one. But yeah, I think audio for me is the scariest way to read horror.
I would have to still go book. I've read some horror comics and some horror manga, and as far as manga, Tokyo Ghoul is my favorite as far as horror. But I would have to go with books. Audio, I do enjoy audio, but all of the horror audio I've listened to, the voice was too cheerful to like get me there. So I'd have to go back to just physical format. So because like I said, my imagination, I can add in, because when I read, it's like a movie is playing in my mind if the author is really good at their descriptions. So I'm going to go with physical reading.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the things that I've probably been most freaked out by has been things I've read physically when I have, but like, because Leslie, like, I have been more like that where it feels like a movie's in my mind. Although I will say, since having kids, like, it's harder for me to get there just because I'm so distracted and like pulled in different directions. And I feel like I have to get into this like mode of reading where I forget that I'm reading to get to that point. And I just don't find myself able to do that as frequently. So audiobooks can be helpful. And I think actually sometimes I really like, if it's a good audiobook, I like doing it where I read along with it. Like that will help me. Where I like, and okay, so like I have a recommendation. One that I think the physical book is great and the audiobook is great is Plain Bad Heroines.
That's on my list.
Yes.
It's so good. The physical book is cool because it's got like illustrations that I think add to it, but the audiobook is fantastic. So like if you can do both, I think it's a great experience. And this one's fun if you like nested storytelling, because it's like a story within a story within a story. And
my favorite.
I love it. And it's like, you know, centering queer women, and it's creepy. It's like slightly, it's not like scary, but the creep factor, it like grows on you through the course of the book. And by the end of it, you'll be like, like hornets or wasps. You'll be like, oh my god, they're so freaky. Like, I don't know, it grows on you.
I already hate those, so I don't know.
Well, I will say a lot of the horror elements of this book, much of it centers on very creepy wasps. So,
yeah. Yikes. I'll keep that in mind. I still prefer just like regular good old paperback or hardcover. I don't have too much experience with different formats. The only manga I've ever read horror-wise is Gyo, and then I have read some of the Walking Dead graphic novels, which I love those. So I recommend those. But yeah, I still just enjoy, just having the physical book. The only audio book that I've listened to that I can remember that I think is like even remotely horror is Ring Shout by PJ Lee Clark. And just like some of those like action scenes when we have our main characters out there fighting the Ku Kluxes, like it's just the audiobook version of it is so good. So I guess like that would be the only thing that has like horror elements that I've listened to.
Ring Shot has such creepy descriptions of like the eye.
It really does, but the audiobook version is also fantastic. So
okay, that's good to know. I'll have to reread it with audio.
Yeah.
So I also like physically reading horror books, but because of one child, I don't have multiple. I can only really like physically read like a couple hours a day, and I can't listen to fantasy books on audio because it's too much to try to follow. So I have to physically read fantasy books and then listen to like any other genre via audiobook. So most of the horror books I've read have actually been via audio, which I have a couple good recommendations. Nosferatu by Joe Hill has one of the best.
Oh my gosh, that is a great book and great audiobook. Highly recommend.
Jade recommended it. Yes, Jade recommended it via audio and highly highly recommend it as well, because the way she does Charlie Minx's voice so good. It's so good. So creepy. Cabin at the End of the World also has a great narrator that I really, really enjoyed, as well as my best friend.
I love it. Pause. I started out listening to Cabin at the End of the World on audio, and I was so confused by the audiobook because I thought the narrator was doing a really weird voice. Okay, I even messaged people. I thought the narrator sounded like Siri reading the book. What? Who had read the book, and I was like, does this have something to do with the twist? Is there something about like robots at the end of the world? Like, what? Why is she talking? And they were like, no, that has nothing to do with robots. Why are you asking? I was like, because the narrator sounds like Siri is reading the book. Like, I thought she was terrible.
I don't know if I listened to the same audiobook as you.
Maybe they redid it. I don't know. It literally sounded like a robot.
Take my recommendation with a grain of salt. That might not be a good audiobook.
I listened to it on audio and I thought it was fine, but I mean, things bother.
Maybe it was just me then.
It's okay.
That's so funny though. Oh my god. Yeah, that would take me out of the story if I thought that it sounded like Siri. My best friend's exorcism also has a great audiobook, as well as The Whisper Man by Alex North. All of those have good audios, so those are some recommendations.
I just listened to this on audio and it was pretty good. The Haunting of Ashburn House. If you like a ghost story, it's very tropey, like, but in a different way. So like, it's got some slight plot holes, but it's fun. So if you want like a fun haunted house story, like it's a good time. I don't know.
Okay. That sounds really good.
And you know what I like? Because this always bothers me. I like that this has a good reason for her to stay in the house, because you know how sometimes you're like, why don't you just leave? So like in this, right? Yeah. So like in this case, she inherits this house. She doesn't have any money. Like she has nowhere else to go. So like she just has to make the best of it. So yeah.
Okay.
I have a really hard time auditorially processing information, so I can't do audiobooks. I can only do things where there's visual and audio. So I do like just the standard book, especially if you're trying to get into the mood and really like dive into it. But something that I have seen a few times with online comics is this mixing of the visual and the audio. Like Emily Carroll did that, where one of her comics, as you scroll down, the scrolling feature gets slower. So it's like physically harder to scroll through the comic. And there's like eerie sounds in the background that start to get louder. So things like that, I think, are really interesting. I haven't seen a ton of that, but every time I see that online, it's like, that's such a cool way to do a horror story.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
I think the only horror I've read a couple of the Walking Dead comics, and then this year I also read In the Low Woods by Carmen Maria Machado, and I really liked that as well. I do think it's funny and irritating that I would like when I went to review it, I like looked through the reviews and it was like all the women were like 4 stars, 5 stars. It was great. All the men 1 star, 2 stars. I didn't get it. It wasn't scary. I'm like, yeah, it's not scary because you're a man and different things scare you. Like this wasn't.
Yeah.
I've read some of the Walking Dead graphic novels, and I don't know. I didn't find them scary, like that medium, I guess. And there was, I read some Lock and Key, and also didn't really think that was that scary. So I don't know. I need to try that Japanese guy because everyone says that's scary.
Yeah,
but I don't know if like that format works for me in horror. I don't know. You would think it would, because like I said, I can't like picture things, and like that's why I like scary movies, because like I just have to watch it.
Well, Lock and Key, I didn't find scary. There's one Image Comics put out called Nailbiter, and it's about this little small town where like 23 serial killers were born in this one town. And the latest one is released from prison on a technicality, and he goes back home, and a couple of FBI agents are kind of like, they're determined they're going to catch him. And it's a mystery, but it's probably the scariest. I call them cartoon picture books, but it's probably the scariest comic I've read.
Oh, wow.
But I hated the ending, so.
Oh no.
I hate when that happens.
No.
There's definitely been a number of horror books with endings I didn't like. I feel like that's like a not a common thing, but a thing that happens in horror.
It's a sticking point for sure, because
Yeah.
you want it all to come together in a way that you want, and then when it doesn't, at least I get really irritated and mad, and then I tend to want to rate the whole book lower.
Yeah, me too. But that's a conversation for another day, because I know there's some readers who like a bad ending won't totally ruin the book for them, but it totally does.
It didn't ruin the series for me. There was so many other ways that would have been great. And I just kind of was like, did you phone it in or just kind of lose your creative mojo? Like,
Game of Thrones season 8.
Whoa, yeah.
right? Yeah.
That's a whole other video. Sorry to bring up a source.
I have stricken that season from my memory.
Same. Okay. So I guess let's talk about horror movies, because I think at least a number of us said that we like to watch horror movies. I really liked, like I said, to watch haunted house kind of ones, which are kind of tropey, like they kind of have the same plot over and over, but I like to see the different things that happen. The original like Conjuring is always a good one, but I also really liked I always get it confused with Sinister, but it's not Sinister, it's
Oh, Insidious.
Insidious.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know
gosh,
why I
yeah.
always get those confused, but Insidious is one of my favorite ones.
Similar names.
That's my like favorite scene, like that freaks me out the most, which it's not even really that scary, but it is. So for people who've watched it, my favorite scene in that movie is like after they have moved and the woman's doing laundry and the song like Tiptoe Through the Tulips or
Oh my god, that scared me so much.
that is my favorite scene ever. Like
I watched that movie with my brother, and he kind of ruined it for me because he kept pointing out Patrick Wilson's eyebrows in the movie are like constantly in motion, and that's all I can focus on now every time I watch that movie.
Oh my god.
Zombie wise, Train to Busan is my favorite zombie movie. It's so good.
Yes. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with Train to Busan. That is hands down one of the best like zombie.
I don't know why they're gonna remake it. Like
Oh my god, yes. Usually
Because they have no creativity to come up with anything new. They just want to sit around and remake stuff that doesn't need to be remade. They need to leave it alone.
But fast zombies are terrifying.
Yeah.
You can have strategy, shoot them in the head, whatever. But fast
Outrun
zombies,
them.
like I got short legs. I'm only 4'9". I'm not gonna survive that.
There's this TV show. I think it's on Netflix. It's called Alive, and so this, like
Yeah, I
20-something
watched
guy.
that.
It's crazy. It's so he was like locked in his room during the zombie apocalypse, and like these zombies run. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's slow down here.
You can watch The Kingdom if you think
That's
zombies-
it.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, that's the name of it.
it's got 2 seasons. It's really good.
Yep. And then it's got a little bonus. I guess it would be a movie-ish type.
Oh, really? I don't think
Yeah, it came out in July. It's about the girl.
Ooh.
It's so good.
Yeah. Okay. So The Kingdom is a zombie TV show on Netflix. It's a Korean one, but it's set in historical Korea, which is really cool. And then on top of that, there's all this like political intrigue.
Yes.
You're trying to figure out what's
It
going
was-
on with the politics. It is so good.
It was amazing. They did a wonderful job with that one.
Yeah.
I think the visual show that gave me the most nightmares for the longest was the Haunting of Hill House series on
Oh,
Netflix.
that was
So
so
good.
The one movie I can think of that messed me up was the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because I saw the midnight showing. I lived by myself out in the sticks.
Oh.
It was like I get home and the wind is blowing through the trees and it's like pitch black dark and I'm like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna hear a chainsaw crank up any second.
Yeah, The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor and his newest one, they're all the same director. It's like something Flanagan.
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass.
Yeah, Midnight
I
Mass.
just watched Midnight Mass like last week. So good. So
We're,
good.
Yeah, I didn't even
we're
make
like
it
2
through Bly
episodes
Manor.
in. I haven't finished Bly Manor either. Okay, the boy freaks me out too much. I'm like, I can't.
The
no.
girl for me, but it was like the second or third episode. The little girl is hiding in the attic.
Oh yeah.
That
Have you
when
seen
she
it?
turns around and she's like, "Shh," I'm like, done.
Yeah, I was just turning
See,
it off.
whereas for me, it's like the little boy like coming on to the nanny. I'm like, no, I can't.
Yeah, I don't like
no.
that.
I don't like this. Creepy.
Yeah.
Good story though.
See, you think that I would love this stuff, right? Like, go creepy kids.
Yeah.
Okay. I also don't visualize. I don't know if I have aphantasia. I don't think it's as severe as that may be, but
the spectrum.
yeah. I don't really visualize things. So reading about creepy kids is one thing, but like seeing it, I don't think I want to watch it. The Exorcist was like enough. That's fine.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. The
Yeah.
creepiest kid I think I've seen in a movie is that kid from The Ring.
Oh my
Yes.
god.
I haven't.
Or
seen
The
that.
Grudge.
Yes,
Really?
yes.
Oh,
The Grudge is so
Oh,
scary.
The Grudge is
It's been
actually
a really long time since
I
I've seen
love that movie
That's
though.
good.
Oh,
It scared the
no.
stuffing out of me, but I loved it.
See,
I
like
haven't watched this since I was a kid, but I want to rewatch it soon. Actually, I was telling my husband I want to rewatch it. My favorite horror movie, I think, because I haven't rewatched it in a long time, is The Others with Nicole Kidman.
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
great movie.
Yes.
that's good.
Like one of the few that I've actually seen. I've seen so few horror movies, which is why I'm doing this thing of like, let me make videos where I'll like watch some. Because I missed so many, but that was good.
Yes.
I never figured that one out either.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, we saw it in theaters, and I was like, I don't know, in the 8th grade. I was like in middle school. I literally I had a stuffed dog that's like this big. I brought it with me. I had no shame. I was like, okay, let's go, friends. And they were like so embarrassed by me because we were like at the theaters. But I had no shame because when I watch scary, and my husband makes fun of me. He's like, "Why are we even watching this?" But I like have a pillow like so I can squeeze it, and I also like shield my face and like peek over it. Like
Oh
this.
yeah, I'm like,
And he's like, yeah, or I hide behind my hands. He's like, "Why are we even watching this?"
Yeah. Look, jump scares freak me the hell out.
That's
Like-
I live for jump scares because
I don't like them because they scare me.
yeah.
I don't like them. They freak me out because I can feel it coming and the tension, and my husband thinks it's hilarious. I'm like, like, oh my gosh, I'm like, no, I can't. No.
What freaks me out more than jump scares now, and I've seen this, a few directors do this in movies, is like there will be something just kind of off to the side in the background
Yes.
that won't catch your
Yes.
attention right away, and you'll just be like, oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah.
I always notice stuff like that, and it just, I'm like,
I never notice things like that.
okay, rewatch The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah.
There's
Mm.
I
ghosts
watched a
It's
video.
all over the Haunting of Hill House. It's in like all the
Ugh.
time.
Yeah.
I'm like
Haunting of Hill House
goosebumps
constantly,
thinking
yeah.
about it.
That
Yeah.
freaks me out too because it's constantly in the background and like you don't know if it's gonna be part of the scene or if it's just hovering there. Like, oh my gosh, yeah.
And when it comes to horror movies, a lot of times I'm really easily pleased. Like I don't have high standards. I am a pretty decent fan of the Paranormal Activities movies. They're just fun.
Oh yeah, I
No,
love those
are
too.
too scary for
I haven't seen those.
I mean, they're nothing like too special. They're pretty low budget, but like Just
I
go.
love the B movies. Love
yeah.
them.
I do sometimes. It depends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just this month, like for the first time, watched some slashers, which I had never seen them, and I want to watch more now because I really enjoyed them. But one that like had me laughing, and I don't think I would have laughed if I'd seen it as a teenager, but seeing it now, I was laughing. Was I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I've never seen that, but I've heard it's like so campy.
So, oh my gosh, like and I mean, like having, like as an 80s baby, like the 90s nostalgia from that movie is like a lot. I was like,
Mhm.
but it's very funny. I'm sure they had a great time making it.
Yeah. I am like super wimpy with horror movies. Like I used to watch them in middle school and high school and was like super into them because it was like the cool thing to do with your friends. Like let's get together and watch horror movies. But now that I like own my own house and like I don't know, like I'm like I'm scary. My parents aren't here.
And I mean, I'm my own worst enemy because, like, I'll watch something and then I'm like, I will not go up the stairs. Nope. I'm like in the app, like turning on all the lamps in all the rooms before I get there. Like, I light my way.
Oh my
Thank
Chris
goodness
will
for
come to
technology.
bed and the lamps will be on. He's like, why are the lamps on? I'm like, oh, I just fell asleep.
I
Nah.
can do any like alien thing. Like
Mm,
I love Alien, the movie Alien, and I love like the Quiet Place movies. Oh my god, like those are awesome. And then I love like Jeepers Creepers. I don't know if anyone's seen that one.
Yeah.
Anything where like the creature is like not of our world kind of thing. I'm like, I can do that. But if it's like ghosts and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like real stuff, like I think the scariest movie, I will never watch it, but it's like my worst nightmare is The Strangers.
Strangers. Yes.
Like that is like my worst nightmare. Like I will never. So like I can read anything. Like The Cabin at the End of the World. I feel like that kind of started out like very Strangers like, but I won't watch it. I can't.
Has anybody seen the movie Extinction or The Extinction? I think it's on Netflix.
So
I don't think so.
It's like an alien invasion, end of the world type movie. Sort of. It's one of those where you can't really like talk about it all the way because of spoilers. But I watched that the other day and it was pretty good. It was like I had never heard of it, so I didn't have much like I didn't have high expectations going into it, and I was just like ready for like a good old end of the world alien invasion movie, and it ended up being like a little more than that or a little different than that, and I really liked it. So I was just curious if anybody had seen it.
I think my favorite like slasher series is the Halloween. I love Michael Myers.
Have you seen the new one?
Not yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Chris
I
won't
just
go
watched
watch scary movies with me, so I have to wait for those to come out so I can watch them at my house.
like, did y'all see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I
No.
really
Hell
liked it.
no. No.
That didn't
Because
because it's like the clown, like
The clown is
I'm
creepy
okay
as
with the
hell.
clown.
it's like if you know
but
what the clown is though, it's like
that's the problem right there.
what?
That's
clown?
what it is.
It's creature.
Yes.
I don't want to say anything.
Yeah. That's the problem.
I
That's
like
why
it.
that's not happening.
And I love like the kid protagonist.
Yeah, see, like, and that's the thing too is like stuff with kids. I'm like, no. It's like there's a clown and there's kids. Like, no.
Yeah, I like that one. That one didn't bother me because the clown is technically. Well, I won't say anything,
Yeah.
but
I've never been scared of clowns.
Me
yeah,
neither.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Ugh,
I
no.
think
I
they're-
hate clowns.
I
I
think
hate
they're creepy.
mimes. Anything that obscures its face. No.
I think clowns are creepy. Yeah.
Oh, that's
This one is. Yeah.
Porcelain dolls are creepy.
Oh
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
those.
yes.
Oh,
And
I
of
wonder
hell.
if I'd be more scared of stuff if I lived in a house, because like I live in an apartment building, so I just like it doesn't have the same. Whereas if I was like in a house,
Yeah. It's a little
Unexplained noises in
things-
an apartment.
Yeah.
is weird.
And you
I'm
never
Your neighbor,
realize what sort of noises your house makes until you're reading this stuff at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I finished a serial killer book where at the end they thought they had him and they really didn't. I finished it. It's like 10 o'clock. My husband has to go like to one of the resorts to do an update.
Oh no.
He's leaving. It's 10 o'clock at night. I finished this book and I'm like sitting in my chair and I'm like right by the windows that are by my courtyard. And I'm like, let me just go ahead and mark it finished in Goodreads. And I hear this noise and it sounded like my imagination. Remember, a body like coming over the fence to the courtyard and like the body like sliding down the fence slowly so that you don't hear your feet hit the ground. Okay. So I have 2 Jack Russell terrorists. Anytime you open the back door, they're going to run out. So I'm like, okay, it's dark out. I'll open the door. I'm like, Bandit, go see what's up. And he wouldn't go out. And I'm like,
Leslie, why do you read horror books?
so I shut the door. I'm hightailing it across the house. I'm like, okay, it's time to go to my room. And I'm like halfway across like the living room and I hear that noise again with a thump. I'm like, oh, heck, this is not good. So then Chris leaves. I realize he went, I'm like, he took the car in the garage and that means he didn't have a key to the front door. And I texted him, I'm like, did you take a key to the house? And he said, no, just leave the back patio door unlocked. I'm like, no, and no.
Absolutely not. I won't buy a house that's like older than like 20 years old.
I will never buy a house that like a fixer upper, one that's old and that we need to remodel because those remodels.
It doesn't matter.
Okay?
If it's made out of wood, it's gonna expand and do stuff like with the weather.
And it's haunted.
When it's dark,
like when you start tearing down walls, the ghosts come out.
like
every movie and every haunted house book, remodeling makes ghosts come.
That's true.
Man, I'm like, I don't even want to walk by the stairwell sometimes. It's like,
You know what?
let me
Somebody should totally write a horror novel set in an apartment building though. Like because that would be like I can just imagine like you could make that super creepy. It's just
there is that one movie, and I can't remember if it's an apartment or a hotel, so that that counts. But I think it's called Black Water.
that title sounds
Hotel.
Riley Savior book. It's not. It's more of a thriller, but it's like a spooky thriller.
Oh
No,
yeah,
it's not Black Water.
They move in these like black water spots.
Lock every door.
Yes.
Lock every door.
Yes. Yes. And it's also based off of a true story, which makes it.
Ooh, those are my favorite.
that.
You reminded me. Anything based with some seed of true story to it.
Oh,
Love that.
Dark Water. Yep.
okay.
Yeah, Dark Water. That's the name of the movie.
Oh man, I don't know how many of you guys watched the newest like version of the Unsolved Mysteries, but there was an episode about Japan and all the ghosts after the tsunami. Creepy episode. So scary.
Cool. You write that one down.
Japan is so good at making scary content.
Very good. Yeah.
Yes.
So is Korea, but yes, Japan is. I think
I believe it.
More
I read this. There's this new YA book that just came out that's like fantasy horror, drawing on Japanese mythology. And I'm like, dude, it's so gruesome and creepy. I didn't realize Japanese mythology was so like.
What is it called?
It is. Hold on one second. Let me get it. I'm gonna get it wrong.
I need this in my life. Just
Yeah. Where are you? I think I just read this not that long ago.
I love Japanese horror. I can't watch it.
Oh. Okay, The Keeper of Night by Kylie Lee Baker. It's set in like historical, mostly Japan. Like she's like half British Reaper, half Japanese Shinigami.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's like a book about being biracial and stuff, but then like she like flees to Japan to try to find her birth mom, and then it like has all of this like Japanese mythology and stuff, and it's super creepy and bloody, especially for like a YA.
I'm so excited. I'm so
Checking that one out.
Okay,
I
give me a little. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to tell a story. I used to live in Japan, and I, in middle school, no, it was not middle school. It was 8th grade or 9th grade, whatever. It was one of those grades, and we went on a field trip to like a traditional ryokan, which was like one of the traditional Japanese hotels with like tatami mats, the sliding washi paper doors, all that. And I had just watched The Grudge. We had to sleep on the tatami mat. There were 2 other girls in my room, and the closet was open, and there was a ceiling tile.
No.
They were like, Jesse, that's your spot because we're not sleeping. I'm like,
No.
I'm not sleeping next to the ceiling with the Grudge kid upstairs. What? So I the whole night was just staring at that ceiling. It was the scariest thing. Nothing happened, but I swear it was the Grudge kid upstairs.
Oh my
So
God.
scary.
That's really funny. I was gonna ask you guys, do any of you like to go to haunted houses?
No.
I never have.
Yes.
Like,
I don't mean like an actual haunted house. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
ones that they put
walkthrough.
together.
no,
Yeah,
I know
we
what you
went-
mean. I never have because the idea like freaks me out too much.
Yeah, we went to Halloween Horror Nights last week at Universal, and we're going again Thursday night. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of
Every year
fun.
we used to go to the Six Flags one. I've done the Universal one in California once, but I also like to do like I don't know. For a while, it was a tradition that my husband and I would go to one every year. Just ones that different companies put together. But in Salt Lake City, if anybody watching this, like you probably know about this haunted house, but they have a haunted house that they put on every year. Like the building is there year round. And it was the scariest thing that I've ever done.
Oh wow.
There's this one part in particular that I have to tell you. Everyone always gets freaked out when I tell them what we had. So, we have to like walk through these rooms. Some of them are dark. They have, people touching you, chasing you, that kind of stuff.
I don't want weird people touching me. That's where I'm like, no.
Actually,
Yeah.
they probably don't touch you. I think you have to sign like a waiver at certain ones to say that you're okay with being touched. So I don't know if they actually touched me, but there's like people jumping out at you that are all in like makeup and stuff and all these like weird rooms. Anyways, one of the rooms that I will never forget this because it was so scary. One of the rooms you walk into and there's I don't know, people dressed kind of creepy standing there, and there's 2 coffins. The way you get to the next room is you have to lay down in the coffin.
Oh
And
no.
you watch the people in front of you go, they lay down in the coffin, they scream, and then like the next person gets in the coffin. And like, what is that?
Thank you.
So my husband and I had to go and lay in these coffins separately because you have to go by yourself.
Oh my God.
What happens is the floor drops out from it turns into a slide. It slides down to the next room. Slides down in the next room. And waiting for you at the bottom of the slide is a guy with a chainsaw. And they always go after me because I'm a screamer. Any little thing, I'm just like screaming, and so
That's
they
Chris.
always chase me because they get a reaction. So this guy with the chainsaw is like chasing me around the room, like puts me in a corner, and like my husband had to come like be a shield because I couldn't get out of the room. And it was terrifying, but
Oh
I will
my
never
God.
forget that experience, like having to lay in a coffin and not know what was going to happen next. Oh, so scary.
I don't like doing haunted houses, but my parents had a friend for a really long time that would put on a haunted house, and I loved working in it.
Oh, I bet that's
and
fun.
yeah, we'd make some of the props, which was really fun, like paper mache arms and
Like working in it would be fun, but I think I don't like anything where I don't have control of like when and how it stops. Like a book
Yeah.
I can close,
Yeah.
like a
very
movie I can pause it, but a haunted, I'm like, if I'm not in control of this scenario, I'm like, no, I don't like this.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
like
I
that.
usually walk behind Justin, hiding behind him like this. I make him experience everything first. And again, he's like, why are we even doing this? I'm like, it's fun.
Because it's a good workout for your heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, by the time we left last week, I had no voice left from screaming. Because they do so well at blending in, and you'll just be walking around the park from the different houses, and they'll just come out of nowhere. They don't touch you, but they get close. I was like, I walked in, I'm like in there for 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, I'm going to take this picture. And one just like, I don't even know where he came from. He was just like, I like bring my phone down. He's like there. And I'm like, ah!
Oh my god.
No.
Oh my
But I
gosh, no.
sacrificed Chris to the haunted houses because once he screams like a girl one good time, they all target him.
I love it.
If anybody's in like the Chicago area, we have a really great one here called Statesville Prison.
Oh.
It is so good. And like I distinctly remember, I'll never forget this. There's like this room full of mirrors, and you go in, and the girl from The Ring is in there.
No.
Like, you're over the face. But it looks like she's everywhere around the room.
No.
It was too much. But
No.
yeah,
No.
we have to recommend that one. So
Nope.
Yes.
That reminds me of the have you seen the Key and Peele skit with the mirror room? Has anyone seen Key and Peele?
I've seen King and Peele, but not that skit.
Oh
Yeah.
God, I gotta send it to you all because it is so funny. They're in like a funhouse mirror place, and the guy. I'll just send it. I'm gonna ruin it. Just try to talk about it.
It's never as scary when you have to explain it.
I know. I'm gonna put it in the chat because it's funny.
if you all like found footage movies, there's a movie like the haunted houses. So it's called Hell House LLC, and so this group of friends, they're actually preparing for the opening of this haunted house, and so that's what they do. They go around and create these haunts, and basically the found footage is like the week leading up to them trying to decorate for it, and all these just spooky and weird things start happening. And you already know that mostly everybody from the footage is already dead when you're watching it. It is extremely spooky. I cannot watch that movie again.
Oh, I know we've got some video gamers here. How do you guys feel about horror video games? I can't
play horror video games.
It's difficult because I'm like doing the Yelp thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love
anxiety. I can watch someone play, so like on Twitch or watch my husband play. I cannot play. I'm just like paralyzed in fear and like don't know what to do.
Speaking of zombies, Tori, have you played Call of Duty Black Ops?
Oh man, I love the zombies. Is all I play on that one.
I feel like I play zombies. I love it.
Justin loves that.
Yeah, Call of Duty definitely was like, what else can we do now?
Yeah. Only zombies.
Yep.
I get like freaked out enough just from like creatures in regular video games. Like when there's giant gross spiders, I'm like, oh
yes. Why does it always have to be spiders?
always
I
spiders.
I like the horror video games because you get to kill the thing. Well, in some of them, I should say, because some of them you don't actually get to kill the creature that's coming after you. But in like Resident Evil or like Silent Hill, you get to fight back, so you have like an illusion of control.
Yeah.
Or get your revenge a little bit.
Yeah.
Called Outlast. And
I've watched people play it.
Yeah, I can watch people play it, but like when they put you in control, it's like you show up on this, well, the last one you show up on this farm and it's like this religious cult and they're just gone completely insane. And so you're basically hiding around this house with nothing but like a camera battery.
And I'm also like not good at video games. Like my camera work is really bad, so it's like really dizzy. Put me in a scary like horror when I'm just like I'm lost. I don't know where to go. Like I can't even run away. I'm like running into walls. Like, it's just... All right, guys. This was a fun chat. I hope you guys are gonna do something fun for Halloween, and we usually just watch a scary movie for Halloween. So.
Yeah, watching movies.
We are taking our kids to a a farm that has a corn maze and pumpkin patch and animal trick or treating with the farm animals and stuff.
That
So,
sounds
Oh,
fun.
that'll be fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
it'll be fun.
All right, guys. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys next time on another episode of Worldhoppers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.